Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. No one was coming. Then the unstoppable force arrived. The sky above Haven Colony burned red, not the gentle crimson of the planet's usual sunset, but the angry glow of enemy ships in low orbit. Captain Tom James stood at the edge of the colony's main defense bunker, his weathered face illuminated by the emergency lights. 3 days. That was how long they had been under siege by the Void Armada. 3 days of constant bombing, 3 days of fear as they watched their outer defenses crumble one by one. "Captain," came a voice from behind him. His second-in-command, Lisa, approached with a data tablet in her hand. Her uniform was stained with dirt and what looked like engine oil. "The North Shield is down to 18%, if they hit it again with those plasma cannons." She didn't need to finish. They both knew what it meant. "How many ships do we count now?" Tom asked, his voice steady despite everything. Lisa's face tightened. 47. They brought in 3 more destroyers last night. Tom nodded slowly. Haven was supposed to be exactly that, a haven. The first successful human colony in the Arcturus system, established just 15 years ago. Now it is home to over 5,000 colonists, families, children, people who had come to build a new life, not die in an unprovoked alien attack. The civilians, are they safe for now? "All in the underground shelters, with food and water for 2 more weeks at most," Lisa replied. At that moment, the bunker shook as another explosion hit somewhere nearby. Dust fell from the ceiling, yet no one flinched anymore. They had gotten used to it. "Sir," Lisa hesitated, "the council wants to meet. They're talking about surrender terms." Tom's jaw tightened. "There won't be any terms, Lisa. You've seen what the Void does to colonies that surrender." The Void Armada had appeared 6 months ago at the edges of human space. No warnings, no demands, no communication at all, just destruction. 3 smaller outposts had already fallen before they reached Haven, and there were no survivors. "We need help," Lisa said simply. "Earth is at least 4 months away at the fastest FTL speeds," Tom replied. "By the time they even get our message." Lisa stepped closer, lowering her voice. "That's why I came to find you. I think we have something." Deep beneath the main colony complex, past the civilian shelters and emergency power systems, Lisa led Tom through a narrow service tunnel. They had to crouch to avoid hitting their heads on the low ceiling. "What exactly are we looking for down here?" Tom asked, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. "Do you remember when we first established the colony, and the survey team found those strange metal structures embedded in the mountain?" Tom nodded. The structures had been studied briefly and determined to be remnants of some ancient civilization long gone from Haven. Nothing of immediate value had been discovered, so research had been deprioritized in favor of getting the colony established. "Well," Lisa continued, "Ben from engineering has been studying them in his spare time. Yesterday, when we lost contact with our communication satellites, he came to me with a theory." They reached a heavy metal door at the end of the tunnel. Lisa pressed her palm against a scanner, and the door slid open with a hiss. Inside was a large chamber carved directly into the rock. The walls were lined with strange, angular metal panels that seemed to shimmer despite the lack of direct light. In the center of the room stood Ben Miller, the colony's head engineer, hunched over what looked like a control panel. "Captain Ben," he greeted with tired eyes, bloodshot from lack of sleep. "Glad Lisa found you. What am I looking at?" Ben gestured to the alien chamber. "It's a communication relay, sir. And not just any relay." His eyes lit up with excitement despite their dire situation. "This technology is incredible. The ancients who built this were using quantum entanglement for instant communication across vast distances." Instant, Tom's attention snapped into focus. "You mean no light-speed delay?" "Exactly," Lisa interjected. "If we can get it working, we could send a message directly to Earth, not in months, but now." Hope flickered in Tom's chest for the first time in days, though he quickly tempered it. "Does it even work after all this time?" "That's what we've been figuring out," Ben explained as he indicated the alien console. "The system still has power, some kind of energy source we don't understand. I've managed to interface our equipment with it, but there's a problem. The network it was designed to connect to is gone, so it's useless. Tom's shoulders slumped. Not necessarily, Ben replied. I think I can reconfigure it to send a broad-spectrum pulse, a shout into the darkness. If Earth has any quantum receivers, even experimental ones, they might pick it up. That's a big might, Tom said, but it's all we have. Lisa's voice was firm. How long to get it ready? Give me 6 hours, Ben said. You have 3, Tom replied. The North Shield won't last 6. Exactly 3 hours later, the modified alien relay stood ready. The team had connected their own equipment to the ancient technology, creating a hybrid system that looked more like a mechanical monster than a communication device. The message needs to be short, Ben explained. Just a few seconds at most, that's all the power we can channel. Tom stepped up to the makeshift transmitter, took a deep breath, and pressed the record button. This is Captain Thomas James of Haven Colony. We are under attack by the Void Armada, 47 ships, 5,000 civilians. Our defenses are failing. We need immediate assistance. These are our coordinates. After sending the message, a deafening silence filled the alien chamber. No one knew if it had worked, if anyone had heard them. The ground shook violently as another bombardment began. Back to your stations, Tom ordered. We hold as long as we can. On the bridge of the Void Armada's command ship, General Dra observed the human colony with cold, calculating eyes. His gray skin reflected the glow of the tactical displays, showing the colony's weakening defenses. Their North Shield is collapsing, his weapons officer reported. 2 more strikes and we can land ground forces. Dra nodded in satisfaction. These humans are persistent, I'll give them that, but ultimately they are no different from the others. A sudden alert caught his attention. One of his sensor officers turned with a confused expression. General, we detected a strange energy spike from the colony, some kind of transmission. It's like nothing we've seen before. Intercepted, Dra ordered. We cannot, sir. It disappeared as if it wasn't bound by normal space. Dra's eyes narrowed. Rising from his command chair, he approached the colony's holographic display and studied it with renewed interest. It doesn't matter, he finally said. Even if they found some way to call for help, no one will reach them in time. No one can travel faster than light allows. He turned to his bridge crew, his mandibles clicking in what passed for a smile among his kind. Continue the attack. By nightfall, this colony will be nothing but ashes like all the others. Little did Dra know that the humans of Earth had been making breakthroughs he couldn't imagine, and that Captain James's desperate call had already been received, not months later, but mere seconds after it was sent. The extinction of Haven Colony seemed certain, but far away something was already in motion that would change everything. The message arrived in the middle of Earth's night cycle at the military command center in the North American zone. Most of the staff had gone home. Only the night shift remained, monitoring communications from the hundreds of human outposts scattered across known space. Lieutenant Dave Wilson sat at his console, fighting to stay awake. His shift would end in 20 long minutes before he could head home to his apartment and fall into bed. The screens in front of him showed nothing unusual: routine check-ins, supply requests, and the occasional minor emergency that local forces could handle. Then, every alarm in the command center went off at once. Dave jolted upright as his screens filled with flashing red warnings. For a moment he thought it was a system malfunction, but then the message played. This is Captain Thomas James of Haven Colony. We are under attack by the Void Armada, 47 ships, 5,000 civilians. Our defenses are failing. We need immediate assistance. These are our coordinates. The voice was as clear as if Captain James were standing right next to him, not transmitting from a colony 4 months away at the fastest possible speeds. Sir, Dave called out urgently, Priority 1 message from Haven Colony. They're under attack. Admiral Robert Brown arrived in seconds, his weathered face stern as he listened to the message replay. That's impossible, he muttered. Haven is in the RQS system. There's no way we could receive a real-time transmission from that distance. Sir, the quantum signature is authenticated. Dave replied, pointing to the verification codes on his screen. This came through on a channel we didn't even know existed, some kind of quantum entanglement that bypasses normal communication delays. Admiral Brown's expression darkened. Get me the Joint Chiefs now. 2 hours later, the crisis room at Military Command was filled with Earth's highest-ranking military officials, their faces grim as they studied the tactical displays. 47 void ships, General Martinez stated, shaking her head. Even if we could get there instantly, which we can't, we don't have enough forces in the entire sector to defeat a fleet of that size. Haven has no chance on its own. Admiral Brown added, their defenses were designed for pirates and minor threats, not a full-scale invasion. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what was at stake. Haven wasn't just any colony. It was the first successful settlement in the Arcturus system, a symbol of humanity's expansion beyond their home solar system. If it fell, other colonies would follow. Maybe we can, someone began, but all eyes turned toward the door. A young man stood there, his rumpled lab coat suggesting he had been pulled from work. His ID badge identified him as Dr. Mike Reynolds from the Advanced Propulsion Division. Who let you in here? General Martinez demanded. Admiral Brown raised a hand. I did. Dr. Reynolds has been working on a project that might be relevant. Go ahead, Doctor. Clearly nervous to be addressing such a distinguished audience, Dr. Mike stepped forward. He tapped a command into his tablet, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room, a massive ship unlike any in Earth's current fleet. This is the Defender, Mike explained. It's the prototype for our new line of battleships. We've been testing a new propulsion system, Project Thunderbolt. It's based on folding space rather than traveling through it. You're talking about an instant jump? Admiral Brown asked. Like the transmission we received, Mike nodded eagerly. Exactly. We've never tried it with a ship this size, but the math works. General Martinez interjected. And how many of these instant jump ships do we have? General, just one, the Defender. And we've only done short-range tests so far, nothing like the distance to Arcturus, Mike admitted. So you're proposing we send one untested ship against 47 enemy vessels? Another general scoffed. Not exactly, Admiral Brown said thoughtfully. The Defender is big enough to carry several smaller ships in its launch bays, and it is armed with our latest weapon systems. It's still a suicide mission. General Martinez argued. That sounds like testing experimental technology in combat conditions against overwhelming odds. Admiral Brown turned to Mike. What are the chances of success, Doctor? I need an honest assessment. Mike took a deep breath. For the jump itself, about a 60% chance of winning against that many enemy ships. I don't know. That depends on how good our forces are. Admiral Brown nodded slowly, then turned to face the room. We're not sending the Defender alone. We'll load it with our best fighters and most elite troops. If this works, we'll have the element of complete surprise. The Void won't be expecting us for months, if at all. Who's going to volunteer for this mission? General Martinez asked. You're talking about testing experimental technology in combat conditions. Admiral Brown smiled grimly. I already have volunteers. The massive launch bay of the Defender hummed with activity. Fighters were being loaded into launch tubes, troops boarded drop ships, and engineers ran final checks on systems that had never been pushed to these limits before. Captain Jack Roberts stood on the bridge, watching the preparations on the ship's main screen. At 42, he had seen more combat than most officers twice his age. When Admiral Brown had asked for volunteers, Jack was the first to step forward. Status report, he called. All systems nominal, Captain, replied his first officer, Lieutenant Anna Green. Engineering reports. The Thunderbolt drive is as ready as it will ever be. All crew are aboard and at battle stations. Jack nodded. In just under 12 hours, they had assembled the best of the best. Pilots who could outfly anything the Void could put in the air. Marines who had fought in the most hostile environments imaginable. Engineers who could keep the ship running even if half of it was blown away. And their passengers. Special forces are loaded and ready. Captain Jack added with a slight smile as Lieutenant Green straightened in her chair. Colonel Taylor says his troops could use a good fight. Bill Taylor, known for his Special Forces unit's reputation for doing the impossible, had been the first to volunteer if anyone could help the colonists on the ground. A communication alert sounded, and Admiral Brown's face appeared on the main screen. Captain Roberts, you are cleared for launch. Remember, this is a rescue mission. First, save those colonists if you can. But your primary objective is to assess the Void's capabilities and return with that intelligence. If the battle goes against you, with all due respect, Admiral, Captain Jack replied firmly, we're not planning on losing this fight. Admiral Brown's stern expression softened slightly. Godspeed, Captain, make Earth proud. The communication ended, and Jack turned to his crew, who watched him expectantly. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to make history. In a few minutes, we'll attempt the longest jump ever made by a human vessel. If we succeed, we'll arrive at Haven in time to save thousands of lives and show the Void Armada that humanity is not to be trifled with. He paused, looking each crew member in the eye. I won't lie to you, the odds are against us, but Earth is counting on us and Haven is counting on us. So let's show them what humanity's finest can do. Lieutenant Green straightened further. All stations report ready, Captain. Jack nodded, engaged the Thunderbolt drive, and the engines began to hum. The sound rose to a pitch that seemed to vibrate through every molecule of the ship. On the view screen, space itself appeared to bend and stretch. Drive at maximum power, the chief engineer reported, preparing for jump in 3, 2, 1. The stars outside suddenly stretched into lines and then vanished altogether as the Defender and its crew leaped into the unknown, carrying with them Haven's only hope for survival. The jump was nothing like the simulations. Captain Jack Roberts gripped his command chair as reality itself seemed to tear apart around the Defender. The massive battleship shuddered violently, metal groaning under stresses it was never designed to endure. Warning lights flashed across every console on the bridge. Status report, Jack shouted over the noise. Lieutenant Anna Green fought with her controls, trying to make sense of the readings. Sensors aren't functioning properly? Unknown, sir, somewhere, but the Thunderbolt drive is overheating. Through the main view screen, Jack could see nothing but swirling darkness, occasionally broken by flashes of energy resembling lightning. We're passing through some kind of space between spaces, a realm that human eyes were never meant to see. Engineering report, Jack called into the comm. The voice of Chief Engineer Pete Kelly came back, strained and breaking up with static. Drive holding, Captain, but barely. We've never pushed it this far before. It wasn't ready for a jump this long. Jack made a quick decision. All power to structural integrity and shut down the drive itself. Shut down all non-essential systems. Already done, sir, Anna replied, but we're still seeing dangerous power fluctuations. A particularly violent shudder ran through the ship, followed by the sound of a distant explosion. Damage report, Jack demanded. Sections 12 through 15 reporting hull breaches, the tactical officer called out. Emergency force fields are holding, but we've lost 2 of our smaller vessels in Bay 3. Jack cursed under his breath. Those ships would have been valuable in the coming battle. How long until we reach Haven? He asked. Anna shook her head. Impossible to say, sir. Our navigation systems can't make sense of where we are. It could be minutes, could be hours. Jack stood up, steadying himself against his chair as the ship continued to shake. I'm going to check on our troops. Lieutenant Green, you have the bridge. Try to stabilize our course if you can. Yes, sir, Anna replied, sliding into the captain's chair. In the main hangar bay, Colonel Bill Taylor was addressing his Special Forces troops when Captain Jack Roberts arrived. Unlike the ship's crew, these men and women seemed almost relaxed despite the violent shaking of the vessel. They had been through worse. Captain on deck, someone called out, and the soldiers snapped to attention. Colonel Taylor, I need a word, Jack said. Taylor, a tall, muscular man with a face carved from stone, nodded to his troops and stepped aside with Jack. How bad is it? Bill asked without preamble. Bad enough, Jack admitted. The ship is holding together, but the jump is putting more strain on the systems than we anticipated. We may arrive at Haven with some damage." Bill nodded, unsurprised. "My troops are ready regardless. We can deploy from orbit even if the ship can't land." "Good," Jack replied. "But there's something else you should know. Lieutenant Smith from Intelligence has been analyzing the data on the Void Armada. It's worse than we thought." Jack handed Bill a data tablet displaying a series of images showing Void ships in various sectors of space, along with a timeline. "They're not just attacking randomly," Jack explained. "They're systematically wiping out every space-faring civilization they encounter. Haven isn't special, it's just next on their list." Bill's eyes narrowed as he studied the information. "So this isn't just about saving one colony, it's about stopping them before they reach Earth." "Exactly," Jack said. "Admiral Brown suspects they're eliminating potential threats before launching a full-scale invasion of Earth itself. That's why this mission is so important. Even if we can't save Haven, we need to gather intelligence on their capabilities." A violent lurch of the ship interrupted their conversation, nearly throwing both men off their feet. "Captain Roberts to the bridge immediately," Lieutenant Green's voice came over the comm, tight with urgency. Jack and Bill exchanged a look. "Stay ready, Colonel," Jack said before hurrying back toward the turbolift. When Jack returned to the bridge, he found chaos. Smoke filled the air from a burned-out console, and crew members worked frantically at their stations. "Report," Jack called out. Anna looked up from the main console, her face pale. "The Thunderbolt drive is failing." "Sir, we're being pulled out of the jump prematurely," someone announced. "Where are we?" "That's the thing, sir," the navigation officer replied. "According to our calculations, we're still at least 2 light years from Haven. The drive couldn't handle a full-distance jump." Jack's heart sank. 2 light years was better than the 4 months it would have taken at regular FTL speeds, but it was still too far to help the colony in time. "Options?" he asked. Chief Engineer Pete Kelly's voice came over the comm. "Captain, I might have a solution. The drive core is damaged but not destroyed. If we vent the plasma from the main reactor directly into the Thunderbolt chamber, we might be able to make one more short jump." "That sounds extremely dangerous," Jack replied. "It is," Pete admitted. "We're talking about a 30% chance of success and a 70% chance of blowing ourselves to atoms. But it's the only way we can reach Haven in time." Jack closed his eyes briefly, weighing the options. Open space outside the jump field was relatively safe. They could make repairs, send a message back to Earth with what we learned, and return home. Or they could risk everything on one more desperate jump. He thought of the 5,000 colonists on Haven, faces upturned to the sky as enemy ships rained destruction upon them. "Do it," he ordered. "Prepare for the second jump." As the crew worked frantically to reconfigure the ship for the risky maneuver, Lieutenant John Smith approached Jack quietly. "Captain, there's something else you should see," he said, offering a data tablet. Jack quickly scanned the information. It was a detailed analysis of the Void Armada's movements compiled from the ship's long-range sensors during their brief exit from the jump field. "Are you sure about this?" Jack asked in a low voice. John nodded grimly. "Yes, sir. The data is clear. The Void ships at Haven aren't just a random battle group. Based on the energy signatures and formation patterns, that's their command fleet. Their leader is there." Jack's expression hardened. "So if we can somehow defeat them at Haven, it could disrupt their entire invasion plan." John finished. "But sir, even with all our advanced technology, we're still outnumbered. The Defender is powerful, but it's not that powerful." Jack handed the tablet back. "Then we'll just have to be smarter than they are. Get this information to Colonel Taylor and the tactical team. I want battle plans that take advantage of this." "Yes, sir," John replied. The ship shuddered again as engineers rerouted power systems and prepared for the desperate final jump. "All hands prepare for emergency jump procedure," Jack announced over the ship-wide comm. "This will be rougher than the first one. Secure all stations and brace for extreme turbulence." Jack returned to his command chair and strapped himself in. The view screen showed the swirling darkness of normal space with stars glittering against the void. Thunderbolt drive is reconfigured, Captain Pete reported from engineering. Ready on your command. Jack took a deep breath. For Earth for Haven, engage. The ship lurched forward as the drive activated once more. The stars stretched and twisted before disappearing entirely. The Defender shuddered violently, but this time there was a sense of purpose to their journey. They were no longer testing an unproven technology. They were bringing war to the void on Haven. On the surface of Haven Colony, the situation had become desperate. Captain Tom James crouched behind a fallen wall, dust covering his uniform and blood caking the side of his face. The colony's north shield had finally collapsed 6 hours ago, allowing void ground forces to land. Now they were fighting street by street, building by building. Captain Lisa, Tom heard his second-in-command as she crawled up beside him, her rifle clutched tightly in her hands. They've reached the central plaza. We can't hold them much longer. Tom nodded grimly. He had already ordered all remaining civilians to retreat to the deepest underground shelters. His soldiers fought bravely, but they were vastly outnumbered and outgunned. What about the east sector? He asked, still gripping his weapon tightly. Lisa replied, Ben rigged some of the mining explosives as traps to slow them down. A series of explosions rocked the ground nearby, sending debris raining down around them. Tom ducked lower, shielding Lisa with his body until the dust settled. We need to fall back to position 3, he ordered, checking his weapon's charge. We can't let them reach the civilian shelters. Lisa nodded. Just then her communication device beeped. It's Ben, she said. He's still at the relay station, says he's picking up strange energy readings in orbit. Tom frowned. The void is bringing in more ships. No, Lisa said, eyes widening as she read the message. It's different, nothing like the void's signatures. It just appeared out of nowhere. Hope flickered in Tom's chest, but he quickly suppressed it. False hope was more dangerous than none at all, probably just a sensor malfunction, he thought. He activated his comm unit. Before he could say another word, the sky above them suddenly lit up with a brilliant flash of light, so intense that both he and Lisa had to shield their eyes. When they looked up again, the red glow of the void ships had been replaced by something else. Multiple streaks of blue-white light descending rapidly from orbit. What is that? Lisa whispered before Tom could answer. His comm unit crackled to life. A voice came through, clear and strong, a voice he did not recognize. Haven Colony, this is Captain Jack Roberts of the Earth Battleship Defender. We received your call. Hold fast, reinforcements are incoming. On the bridge of his flagship, General Draw was watching the ground assault with satisfaction when alarms began blaring across the command deck. What now? He demanded, irritated by the interruption. His sensor officer turned with a confused expression. General, we detected an unknown energy signature, massive power readings like nothing we've ever seen. Show me. Draw ordered the main view screen to display the space above Haven. At first, there was nothing but the stars and his own fleet. Then, suddenly, reality itself seemed to tear open. A swirling vortex of energy appeared where empty space had been moments before. What is that? Draw demanded, rising from his command chair before anyone could answer. A massive ship emerged from the vortex, larger than any vessel in his fleet, its hull gleaming with unfamiliar weapon systems. Behind it came smaller ships, dozens of them pouring out of the tier in space like angry insects from a disturbed nest. Impossible, Draw whispered. No species has mastered instant space travel. The humans can't be here, they can't. Sir, they're deploying fighters, his weapons officer called out, adding, and drop ships are heading for the surface. Draw's shock quickly turned to anger. Target that main vessel, order all ships to concentrate fire. His fleet responded immediately, energy weapons powering up and locking onto the Defender. Yet the human ship moved with surprising speed for its size, its shields flaring blue as they absorbed the first volleys. Their shields are holding, reported his weapons officer. Our weapons are having minimal effect. Impossible, Draw repeated, watching as the human vessel unleashed its own weapons. brilliant beams of energy lancing out from the defender and striking three of his destroyers simultaneously. The void shift shields collapsed instantly. Their hulls ruptured in explosive decompressions. For the first time in his long military career, General Dra felt fear. Captain Jack Roberts watched the battle unfold on the defenders' tactical display. The sudden arrival had given them a crucial advantage. The Void fleet was scrambling to respond, their formation breaking apart as ships attempted to reposition. "Target their command vessel," Jack ordered. "Lieutenant Green, prepare to deploy our fighters." "Fighters ready for launch, sir," Anna replied. "Colonel Taylor's drop ships are also prepared to depart," Jack continued. "Launch all fighters and notify Colonel Taylor that he is clear to begin the ground assault." The ship shuddered slightly as launch bays opened, disgorging dozens of sleek fighter craft. Unlike the bulky Void ships, Earth's fighters were small, fast, and nearly impossible to hit. They streaked toward the enemy fleet, weapons blazing. "Sir, the communications officer has established contact with Haven's defense forces," Honor announced. "Captain James is requesting immediate assistance in the colony Central District, routing his coordinates to Colonel Taylor." "Tell him help is on the way," Jack replied. On the main view screen, Jack could see the Void's command ship, a massive, dark vessel bristling with weapons, slowly turning as it attempted to bring its main guns to bear on the defender. "They're targeting us, sir," the tactical officer reported. Jack smiled grimly. "Let them try. Shields at maximum, return fire with the main cannons." The defenders' advanced weapon systems came to life, energy building in the forward arrays, unlike the crude plasma weapons used by the Void. Earth's ships were equipped with focused particle beams, capable of slicing through enemy shields as if they weren't even there. Jack gave the order, "Fire!" The beams lanced out, striking the Void command ship with pinpoint accuracy. Its shields flared and then collapsed, and sections of its hull peeled away under the assault. "Their weapon systems are severely damaged, sir," the tactical officer called out. "Colonel Taylor reports his forces have landed," Anna said. "They're engaging Void ground troops near the colony center." Jack nodded. The battle was far from over, but they had achieved the impossible. They had arrived in time and were now fighting back on the surface. Meanwhile, Tom and Lisa watched in awe as the sky filled with unfamiliar ships. At first, they had feared it was more Void forces, but then they saw the symbols painted on the hulls, Earth's emblem, a blue planet with a protective shield. "They came," Lisa whispered, tears in her eyes. "They actually came." Tom couldn't believe it either. Somehow, against all odds, Earth had received their message and responded, not in months, but in days. It seemed impossible. The dropships landed in the open area behind their position, their ramps descending to disgorge heavily armed soldiers in advanced combat armor. Their weapons made the colonists' arms look like toys. A tall, imposing man approached, his helmet retracting to reveal a weathered face. "Captain James?" he asked. Tom nodded, still stunned. "Colonel Taylor, Earth Special Forces," the man said, extending a hand. "Heard you folks could use some help." Tom clasped the offered hand, feeling strength flow back into his tired body. "How is this possible? How did you get here so quickly?" Bill Taylor smiled. "New technology, the eggheads call it the Thunderbolt Drive. Its first real test run, and I've got to say, it's one hell of a ride." More soldiers fanned out around them, taking up defensive positions. Their weapons hummed with power unlike anything Tom had ever seen before. "What's the situation?" Colonel Taylor asked. "All business now," Tom quickly described. The Void's positions, their tactics, and the location of the civilian shelters. Bill nodded and activated his comm. "All units move to positions Alpha through Delta. Priority 1 is securing the civilian shelters. Show these Void bastards what happens when they mess with human colonies." Tom straightened, newfound determination flowing through him. "We'll hold this position. Count on us." Above them, the battle in orbit continued to rage. For the first time since the Void had appeared, Tom felt something he had almost forgotten: hope. The battle for Haven unfolded across both space and ground with stunning speed. In orbit, the Defender moved with impossible grace for a vessel of its size. Its advanced engines allowed it to outmaneuver the larger Void ships despite their numbers. On the bridge, Captain Jack Roberts stood calmly issuing orders as the ship shuddered under enemy fire. "Evasive pattern Delta," he commanded. "Target their engines and weapon systems, disable, don't destroy." "Sir," Lieutenant Anna Green questioned, glancing up from her console, "we need intelligence." Jack explained, "Admiral Brown wants prisoners and intact technology. Focus on the command ship on the tactical display." Earth's fighters swarmed around the Void vessels like angry bees. Their smaller size made them difficult targets for the aliens' heavy weapons. With each pass, they struck with precision, targeting shield generators and weapon placements. "Sir, the Void fleet is breaking formation," the tactical officer reported. "They appear to be retreating." Jack frowned. This wasn't the behavior he expected from an armada that had conquered multiple systems without defeat. "It's a trick," he decided. "They're regrouping. Target their command ship before they can coordinate." The Defender's main cannons charged again, gathering energy until the air on the bridge seemed to crackle with power. When they fired, the beams cut through space like blue lightning, striking the Void command ship's engines. The massive vessel shuddered and then began to drift. "Direct hit," the tactical officer called out. "Their engines are offline." Jack allowed himself a small smile. "Send the boarding teams. I want General Draw alive on the ground." The battle had transformed from a desperate last stand into a coordinated counterattack. Colonel Bill Taylor led his special forces through the colony streets, working in perfect sync with Captain Tom James and the Colonial Defenders as they pushed forward. "Push, push," Bill shouted, his advanced battle armor deflecting enemy fire as if it were nothing more than rain. "Don't let them regroup." The Void ground forces, used to easy victories against outmatched opponents, found themselves facing soldiers with superior training and equipment. Earth Special Forces moved like ghosts through the ruined buildings, their weapons cutting down alien troops with surgical precision. In the colony's main square, Tom and Lisa fought alongside Earth's soldiers, their exhaustion forgotten in the rush of combat. For the first time in days, they were advancing instead of retreating. "They're falling back," Lisa called out, watching as a group of Void soldiers abandoned their position. Tom nodded grimly. "Don't let up. We need to secure the civilian shelters." A massive explosion rocked the ground nearby as one of the Void's larger ground vehicles went up in flames, hit by a precision strike from an Earth fighter flying overhead. Bill approached, his armor scorched but intact. "Captain James, we've secured the east sector. My teams report that the Void forces are in full retreat across the colony. They're heading back to their ships." Tom realized Bill had tapped his communication device. "Captain Roberts, be advised. Void ground forces are attempting to evacuate. Request air support to cut off their retreat." "Acknowledged," came Colonel Jack's clear reply over comm. "Fighters are being redirected. Also be advised, we've disabled their command ship and are preparing to board." Tom could hardly believe what he was hearing. In just a few hours, the seemingly invincible Void armada was being driven back by Earth's forces. "How are we winning so decisively?" he asked Bill. Bill's face grew serious. "They've never faced real resistance before. Intelligence thinks they've been picking off isolated colonies and weaker species to build their strength, but they've never encountered Earth's full military power." He gestured toward the sky where the battle raged. "That ship up there, the Defender, is just the prototype. Earth has been preparing for something like this ever since we started exploring beyond our solar system." A series of explosions lit up the sky as more Void ships fell to Earth's fighters. "They picked the wrong species to mess with," Bill said grimly. On the bridge of his crippled flagship, General Draw watched in disbelief as his supposedly invincible armada was systematically dismantled by the human forces. Alarms blared all around him, and emergency lights cast red shadows across the command deck. "Sir, Earth forces have boarded levels 3 through 7, his security chief reported, mandibles clicking nervously. Our troops cannot hold them back. Their weapons, we've never seen anything like them. Draw snarled in frustration. This isn't possible. The humans were supposed to be an emerging species, barely capable of interstellar travel. Yet here they are, wielding technology that rivals or even surpasses our own. How many ships can still jump to safety? Perhaps 15, his officer replied. The rest are either destroyed or disabled. Less than a third of our fleet remains. This is the worst defeat in the history of the Void Armada, Draw bellowed. Order them to jump immediately, return to their home world, and warn the Council.